Something a little bit different today. I'm going to review a musical album that I've liked for a really long time, and something that like an album that I don't think very many film critics on YouTube really talk about, and that's the work of Darren Hayes, the Australian songwriter who used to be in the band Savage Garden with Daniel Jones. I won't be reviewing those two albums right now. I might review them in the future. But the album I want to focus on today was his first solo album after splitting from Savage Garden in 2001 after making two albums together. And his first solo album was called Spin, and it released in early 2002, which would make it now be almost its 20 years since it first released. Now, I don't actually have the physical copy of Spin anymore. I used to, but after many garage sales and selling things, I don't have the CD anymore, so I just listen to it on Spotify now. The only CD I have was that I have right now is the Savage Garden compilation album, which came out in 2015, I think, and it was kind of just like a re-release of all of the some of the classic Savage Garden hits from both of the albums from the late 90s, and it's great. But I'll probably review that some other time. I wanted to focus on this one, so this was kind of a bit of a departure from Savage Garden sound. It kind of has this this colder vibe. It does feel a little bit more, let's say, just a bit colder, really. Savage Garden's sound is kind of like, full of it's like poppy boppy, with lots of late 90s synth sounds and elements of rock, and some really well and delicately written lyrics throughout their songs. It has a very unique sound. It kind of for the longest time, Savage Garden was kind of like the sound of Brisbane because it was the most popular music band that ever came out of Brisbane. But it just has that real atmosphere of basically just two guys who just wanted to come together and make some good music. And they did have some variety. They kind of went into a little bit of rock, but most of it was kind of sort of love ballads and things like that. They didn't really make that many songs. But when Darren Hayes left Savage Garden and started making music on his own, you could definitely tell that Daniel Jones's presence was it was gone in this album basically. But Darren Hayes can definitely make great music of his own without Daniel Jones, and make a really atmospheric and very slick and kind of chilled out sounding record, but with a kind of touch of, it's a little bit sadder, a little bit more subdued, and you kind of get this chilly feeling when you listen to it. It's a very calming album, but it definitely has a few more depressive and a bit of a overall, not sadder, but just a colder tone throughout, that kind of emanates throughout the album. And it's kind of hard to explain unless you listen to it, but it's a very unique sounding album, and it definitely has its own identity. The more shadowy feel of this album is definitely a nice touch. It does kind of reflect the time that it came out in, which was like its release was only like a few months after like September 11, 9/11, and I kind of feel at that point in that era, this music kind of took on this kind of darker, more mysterious and kind of shadowy tone compared to the flair and upbeat nature a kind of like euphoria of the late 90s. And whether it's a coincidence or not, it is definitely a nice change from the overall feel of Savage Garden. But of course, in that more kind of misty, shadowy feel of this album, Darren's voice is still the same. It's still a pleasure to listen to. He has such a calming and relaxing singing voice, and he's really able to hit those high crescendos and real high notes that a lot of singers today are just unable to do. His range is incredible. So the album starts off with its opener, Strange Relationship, which is basically a song about basically a relationship that doesn't really work out and just how strange it gets. It is a great opener. It really pulls you into what kind of gives you a taste of the musical identity of this album. It's a very nice sounding song. It has a lot of atmosphere. It has a really nice outro, and then we lead into definitely the most well-known song of this album, which is Insatiable. It's basically a love-making song, a sexy song where Darren puts on like this more sexy voice and really a very relaxing but kind of seductive track, and it's full of atmosphere. I mean, I know it's very nostalgic for me. Like I'm taken like back to 2002, 2003 when I listened to this song, and reminds me of what life was like at that time, which is pretty different from now. But apart from the nostalgia factor, it is definitely a very listenable track, and it just calms you, it serenades you, and it's just a really good love-making song. Now that the musical tone and atmosphere of this album has been established, we move on to some more songs like Heart Attack, which is basically a song about I think Darren being backstabbed by somebody and how painful that is. Kind of just about anxiety, about being betrayed by somebody. And it moves on to I Miss You, which is basically just a song singing about how he misses like one of his friends, maybe one of his former lovers. And this is also a very nice and calming and relaxing song. It has a lot of nice sound work put into it. It kind of teeters on a bit of uses a little bit of electronic in this song, and it's overall just a very nice track. And then we move into Creeping Up on You. Also we go into Dirty, which is kind of like a another kind of sexual song, basically just about talking dirty. And it's a catchy song. It has a catchy beat. Has a really nice hook that pulls you into the song, and overall just a really good beat and very fun song to listen to. And then we go into I think this song paired with Insatiable is my favourite in the album, and that's Crush, 1980 Me. Now this song is definitely the most electronic song of the entire album. It kind of has like digitized voice effects, a lot of kind of like Darren's voice sampling and put through a computer, kind of a lot of vocoders, a lot of electronic sound effects put through the song. It's a very jumpy, probably the most upbeat song of the entire album, and it's a real thumper. It really makes you wanna, bop along, which is what you want a good song to do. And overall, it's just a very fun listen. Alright, so now at the halfway point of the album, we get to Good Enough, which is one of the longest songs on the album. it's basically Darren talking about how he never feels he's good enough. There is a line that says, better than best is just simply to be good enough. Feeling like he has to please everybody, please his partner, go through this crazy amount of work just to feel like he's good enough. And at the end of the song we get probably a lot of him demonstrating his really high voice abilities, where he for quite a bit of time he really goes into those high crescendos during the outro, and it's definitely a high point of the album. Then we get to Like It or Not, which is actually the longest song on the album, and it definitely has starts out also very shadowy, very dark and mysterious. Funnily enough, this song actually reminds me of a track in a video game from SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, the Flying Dutchman's Graveyard. The intro almost sounds like exactly identical to the way that song starts out, but this song, it kind of, after like 15 seconds, it cuts away from that and goes into a beat, goes into another nice, very calming Darren Hayes song. Then we go into What You Like, which is also a very upbeat song. It's very definitely the most poppy, upbeat song of the album. Then we get to Spin, which is the song that the title is based off. Now this song is also kind of also an upbeat and bouncy song. Kind of has a lot of instruments put in it, and I think this, What You Like, and Crush are the three upbeat songs of the album. Now there is one last song that's only on the Australian version, which is called The Heart Wants What It Wants. I don't really remember listening to this song very much, so I don't really have that much to say about it, but it's a bonus track and if you heard it, then it's good for you, I guess. But I don't remember it, but I'm pretty sure it was a nice closer, a nice touching love song by Darren, probably is what I think what it was. So overall, I thought this was a really good first solo album for Darren. It had its own atmosphere, its colder atmosphere, but the bad thing about this album is that it has the misfortune to follow up from Savage Garden, and it is a big change from that style of sound. And I think it did get a bit of a murky reception from many people just because it wasn't Savage Garden. But it is Darren Hayes, and what he does with this album is quite breathtaking. It's it just calms you right down, and it's just able to put you in this mood of feeling of just it's very it really helps you fall asleep, and it's really good at just taking away the nervousness and just putting you in his trance basically, and able to put you in that mood of just relaxation. It's a relaxing album, that's all I can say. I would give it a 9 out of 10. It is a very, very good effort from Darren Hayes, and its only flaw really is that it's because it had to live up to Savage Garden basically, and since it wasn't that, it had to kind of adapt on its own. There are weaker songs in this album, but I think the only flaw that it has is really unavoidable. It's not Savage Garden. It is Darren Hayes. So he had to work with himself being solo and the experience he got with Daniel Jones. But overall, he nearly flawlessly pulled off a very atmospheric album that touched on a lot of different issues and had a lot of great love songs. It is it's a classic Australian album in my books. It's definitely been very underrated. It's it's basically called Spin because you just spin with Darren for an hour, and when you listen to it, you have no other care in the world than just to listen to his wonderful voice. So if you haven't listened to it already, definitely give it a listen. It's on Spotify. I'll eventually get around to his later albums and of course his Savage Garden albums. But this is an almost perfect debut solo album, and it could have been terrible. It could have been really bad, but instead he took what he had, what all the experience he gained, and he created a very unique sounding and very calming record. So that's what I have to say. Take care.